You might already know this, but if you don't, here is a massive but not in any way surprising injustice. Myles Cosgrove, who was fired back in as a result of the killing of Breonna Taylor back in 2020, had been fired from the Louisville Metro Police Department, was hired by another one, Carroll County Sheriff's Department, as a deputy. Here is Myles Cosgrove. This is the individual who's gonna be back on the job. And he's been massively inconvenienced by the experience. After all, as you can see from this map, he has to work 50 miles down the road, that's it. This is exactly what we have talked about for multiple years. They commit a totally needless, horrendous tragedy, and then a couple towns down, they just get hired to do it again. And Chief Deputy Sheriff Rob Miller, who helped to facilitate this, says, "We think he'll help reduce the flow of drugs in our area and reduce property crimes. We felt like he was a good candidate to help us in our county." Well, which type of property crimes? Because I personally think that wildly shooting up apartments is itself a property crime, and he seems to have a pretty checkered past when it comes to that. But bear in mind that back in Louisville, March 13th, 2020, Cosgrove and 2 other officers fired shots at Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, when officers executed a no-knock raid on Walker's home. Taylor and Walker were in bed at the time, and Walker, who thought someone was breaking in because that's what they were doing, fired a shot that hit one officer, at which point officers fired back dozens of times. Cosgrove himself shot 16 times. One hit and killed Breonna Taylor. Maybe if he had had minimal self-control and only fired a few times randomly into a building where he has no idea who he was gonna hit, then maybe Breonna Taylor would still be alive. But no, when he was briefly worried for his life, he decided to shoot everything he had into a building that he knew nothing about. Now he's gonna have another opportunity since he's going to be back on the force. What do you think, Jayar?
The quote was, "We think he'll help reduce the flow of drugs in our area and reduce property crimes." They ran up in that house with Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend sleeping, raiding it, I assume I can't remember exactly the details of their BS excuse, for the reasons of a raid or a warrant that they got nefariously for probably something like drugs or something like that. What is it about his background with what he's been fired over would make you have any confidence in him doing something right on that same topic that he screwed up and his partner screwed up that first time? It doesn't. They're just making stuff up. What they want is just another cop who's experienced to do more of the same foot soldier work on the ground, harassing and terrorizing citizens. That's the bottom line. We need more numbers of people because we need more of our soldiers on the streets.
Like, think about how crazy this is. There's no one else that could do this job. Apparently, there is no one who is qualified in terms of having been trained to be a sheriff and hasn't needlessly murdered anyone. Apparently, there's nobody. By the way, this guy has already shown that he potentially brings tons of negative PR as well as court cases against the people he works for. Is this not like wildly financially irresponsible? Obviously it is. They don't care. They chose this guy on purpose because of what he did. But there should be pushback from elected officials in the area. This is likely to result in massive court cases against them when he once again does what he's already shown he's gonna do. By the way, the idea that like he'll help reduce the flow of drugs, reduce property crimes. If we were ranking crimes, where would you put drugs, property crimes, wildly firing into a building and murdering someone? If you were to rank those, I'll leave you with that.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.